Hello everyone, it's Gerant again with another update to my Blockade build for decay tanks. Actually, it's a complete overhaul of the build for Orsinium, as I've reached a long time VR16 and a lot of new sets are there and jewelry and whatnot. So this video will be a bit longer again because I'm going all over the build again. So if you want to jump to certain parts of the build, either use the description of the video here on YouTube or click on the links in the video on top. So let's get into it again. For the race, again, I have chosen the race of Imperial, and again, this build is pretty much for any race, but some are a bit better suited for tanking than others. So if you're more like stamina based, then of course Redguard and Imperial are best. If you're more on Magicka, then Breton and Dunmer are good too. But like I said, the build is good for every race there is if you put in everything right in attributes and stuff. So let's stay at the attributes while we're at it. I'm still keeping everything in health. For some people that might be a little of overkill, because as you can see I'm using purple 3-stat food currently, and that puts me at a little bit over 34k and a half, or around 34k. If that is too much for you, then depending on what route you go, more on that later on in the video, you can put in more points into Magicka or Stamina if you want to, but I'm used to have everything in health, so that's working for me. And if I'm doing trials like Sanctum, it's still good to have way over 30k for the Manticore fight and whatnot. So yeah, that's for the attributes. Then let's have a look at the Mundus stone. For the Mundus stone, this is one of the only times where it maybe depends what race you have. I have switched to the mage lately. As you can see, my health is so high. There is no need for me to go for the tower for stamina or the lord for health, especially not the lord. And my current build is more Magicka based, so the mage does it for me. If you are going more for the stamina part of the build, then of course you can skip the mage and go for the tower if you want for stamina. And just quickly show you the food that I'm using. So for normal pledges, I still stay with the normal blue 15 food with health and stamina, or only health and Magicka, depending. But lately I'm using the VR14 purple 3-stat food, so longfin pasty with melon sauce. It gives me health, Magicka, and stamina. It's pretty awesome. I'm really good with that setup. Then let's jump right into the champion points, because I will do the gear at the very last, because the gear part is the biggest part of this video. So I'm gonna do the shorter parts first. So for the champion point distribution, I'm currently not at 501 CP. I'm at around 485 at the point I'm doing this video. But I can show you what you have to put in for the maximum of CP, so 501. There is also a difference, like I said before, if you want to go the stamina way or the Magicka way. That's only for DPSing, and DPSing in that case is only for veteran white gold tower for the flame atronach boss, where you have to basically switch from tanking gear to DPS gear. So the only change that you do is you decide for this build if you're doing the DPS part, if you want to go Stamina or Magicka. I, for my part, have switched from Stamina to Magicka recently, and it's working pretty much the same, but I feel a bit more, it feels a bit more easier with Magicka currently than with Stamina, at least for me. So let's start with the one that is pretty stable. Let's check out the Steed. I have 100 points in block expertise, 20 points in spell shield. Depending on what gear you're using later on in the gear section, you could maybe remove those 20 if you don't really want the reinforced passive bonus, which I don't know, for me it doesn't really give me that much if I hold block and get like a shield for only 1,000 or so. If you want to have it, then stay it that way. Otherwise, you can remove 20 points and spend it, for example, in Elemental Defender. So yeah, let's stay here. I have put in at least 10 points here, either in Elemental Defender or Hardy, doesn't matter, for the spell absorption, which is really good. And basically when I have all my points set and I only have the leftover points, I put them into the lady. And lately I opened up Resilient, which pretty much doesn't do much for me because I don't do PvP, so I'm not getting critically attacked, but whatever. So I'm putting points in between Hardy and Elemental Defender. Currently my plan is to stay with 10 on Hardy and just put any leftover, so the 6 leftover points I'll put in Elemental Defender and let it be. For the Lord, I just put in 10 points into Heavy Armor to get the Field Physician bonus, which is pretty nice if you resurrect someone, which I'm doing pretty often as a tank also, to get the damage reduction. But again, if you want, you can use those 20 here and give it to Heavy Armor if you want, and open up the 30 points here to get the Magicka recovery for the one that you resurrect. Completely up to you. That those points are not really necessary or that important. The important ones are the 100 expertise for blocking. Okay, let's look at the tower, which is also stable no matter what way you choose, Stamina or Magicka. As we are tanks, or the Blockade is a tanking build, I have the most points in the Warlord, but I split them like half, so if I have 88 here, the next point will be here at 44. So I think if I counted it correctly, it is possible to put 90, 45, 45, and let it be done. I know it's way over that, but for tanking it's really good, and yeah, Warmont. If you want it, it's not too bad. I'm also using here the Arcanist 30. That also stays the same no matter what path you choose. And I have nothing in the shadow. Now the important part for the mage, star signs. Now it depends what way you're gonna go. If you want to go stamina based or Magicka based. If you're going Magicka based, then put 100 into Elemental Expert for sure. So that's a must for if you go, or at least a 30, but I put 100 here for the DPS. Then I come back here later. Then important are also the 50 into, or the 30 in total into the Adrenac. Currently I have to respec because I was switching from Stamina, as I said before, to Magicka, and I haven't reset it yet, everything. So those 15 into Bow Expert would of course go into Staff Expert if you're going for the Stamina route. If you're staying, for the Magicka, sorry. If you're going Stamina, then you can keep the 15 on the Bow Expert. I'm staying on Blade Expert and not Heavy Weapon Expert like Maces, because I still hope I'm getting lucky in Maelstrom Arena or Dragonstar Arena to get the Master of a Maelstrom sword. So yeah, I'm leaving it into Blade. Then the ritual is the one that you put in points if you want to go the stamina based route. So as you remember, we have like 100 here into Elemental Expert if you are Magicka based. You put the 100 into Mighty if you're going stamina based. And the rest, like Elfborn and Spell Precision, you can put, for example, in Precise Strikes or Piercing, and also the ones from Blast. You could leave if you want to, because I'm using it for the coagulating blood and stuff to heal myself. But if you are at the highest, then it's also working to put 120 points here and still have some points into Blast. So if you want to go that route, you can go 120 here and put the rest into Blast. It's completely up to you. The important part is to put in the 100 into Mighty if you're going the stamina route. Okay, that's for CP distribution. Let's get back into the game. Then let's have a look at the skills. Let's have a look at the skills for the basic tanking first, and I will go into the skills for the DPS part in the gear section. So let's look at the skills for tanking. For tanking, my basic skills are in the bar 1. We have Pierce Armor as our close area taunt. Then I have Burning Embers to give me the overtime healing. As soon as the dot runs out, I get healed, or when the mob dies, I get healed. So that's pretty good. And it also costs pretty much nothing. Then I have Hardened Armor to give me the damage shield at activation, and also the Major Ward and Major Resolve for physical resistance and spell resistance. Then I'm using Coagulating Blood. You might ask why I'm not using the Green Dragon Blood morph. That's pretty easy to say, because this build, like the name suggests, is a pretty much nearly perma-blocking build, which, contrary to some opinions, is still viable and very much possible, even after the block nerf. And I'm using Coagulating Blood because of the heal, of course, and the Major Fortitude and Minor Vitality that I get, which gives me health recovery, which is not that important, but I'm also receiving 8% more heals, and that is pretty good. Compared to the Green Dragon Blood, where I would get Major Endurance for the stamina recovery, which I wouldn't be able to use, because when I'm blocking, I don't regenerate stamina, right? So Coagulating Blood it is. And for the 5th and last ability for the normal skills, I'm using Defensive Stance. I like this better than the Absorb magic one, because this one stuns on Reflect, and it doesn't have a max that you can absorb, because the absorb magic has a maximum what it can absorb. So if you get hit, for example, now I have like 17k, so if I would get for 30k, then I was still getting hit for 15, and with the reflect I'm getting hit for nothing. I just reflect. Even if the mob itself won't be stunned, it still reflects, and I don't take any damage, so that's why I take it. And for the ultimate, lately I use Magma Shell. Before that I used Ferocious Leap. It's still viable. I'm still switching it up. For pledges I rather use Ferocious Leap, because it the ultimate cost is lower, like half, or close to half, and it's easier in the pledges, easier to use, and you get the damage shield, and you do some damage, so it's a bit better than Magma Shell. in the harder dungeons like Veteran White Gold Tower or Imperial Prison, I tend to use Magma Shell because of the boss mechanics that I sometimes have a lot of mobs on me, or the four bosses before the Lord Warden Dusk, you know, those Tremora. I sometimes use a Magma Shell to get my resources up with the passive, with the class passive of Earthen Heart, you know, Mountain Blessing, and also keep myself at 3% max incoming damage. That really helps if you have like 4 mobs in you, or 4 bosses. Then for let's go to part 2. On part 2 I'm using Inner Rage. That's my range taunt. It's the Magicka morph. So I have 1 stamina morph and 1 Magicka morph for the taunts. Then I'm using Heroic Slash. I'm not using Heroic Slash that often anymore. I tend to only use them on bosses now. So if you're not concerned about ultimate regeneration, you could surely also exchange it for the other morph. So that would be Deep Slash. If you want to use it against trash mobs, then I would say Deep Slash is maybe better. But to be honest, I don't want to change my whole skills just for 1 skill. So I'm leaving Heroic Slash. But again, lately I'm only using it at bosses to save my stamina. Then I have Choking Talents. I prefer this morph more than Burning Talents, because Choking reduces the damage for 15%. If I'm doing Trials or Dragonstar Arena, then I'll switch that one out, the Choking Talents, for extended chains to pull the mobs to me. So that's my utility slot. And the 4th one is Igneo Shields, to give the group a shield buff, and also myself, of course. And as you will see later, I have a lot more Magicka than I had before, like more than double, basically. If you have enough Magicka, you of course put up Igneo Shield and then use your Coagulating Blood for you to get even more health regenerated. And then again, defensive stance. If you don't use the second bar that often, or if you only use it for range taunting without enemies nearby, you can of course change defensive stance out for any skill you think viable. Be it Fossilize or Shattering Rocks, or I don't know what. Basically, you can change it out to whatever you want, if you really want, but I'm used to be on the safe side with blocking, so I'll keep that one. And for the other ultimate on part 2, I currently have slotted Shooting Star, but depending on which dungeon I'm doing, if there are a lot of Daedra and Undead in there, then I will also switch to one of the morphs of Dawnbreaker. Like I said before, I'm on a Magicka build, or Magicka side currently, so I'm leveling up Dawnbreak of Smiting. If you of course use the stamina path, then you will choose Flawless Dawnbreak, of course. Okay, that's for the skills for tanking. Now let's have a look at the biggest part and the last part of the video, the gear setup. You can split up the gear into 2 sections, or actually 3. The first section is if you have below than 300 champion points, and the other one is if you have more than 300 champion points, and the third one is DPS gear. So let's have a look at what you're taking for if you have below 300 champion points. I don't have the gear on me. I have it on other characters because I have like 5 other characters and 3 of them are tanks. I will check if I can put them either in the description of the video or maybe make an at the end of the video show you the gear. Otherwise I will just tell you what gear to use. So if you're having 300 or less or 299 or less champion points, then the gear that I would use for this build when you are tanking is to use for the helmet, to use either Bloodspawn or Engine Guardian. For the shoulders, the same, either Bloodspawn or Engine Guardian. For the helm, it should be heavy. For the shoulders, it should be medium if possible. The trade, if possible, should be reinforced to get more physical and spell defense up. If the shoulders are divine or infused, then yeah, you can of course also take it, but reinforced or divine would be the preferable one for the shoulders. For the chest, the pants, and the belt, you will use the Histbark craftable. And for the belt, you will enchant it, or you will craft it light, and the pants and the chest should be heavy again. The heavy parts should be reinforced again, and the light belt should be divine if possible. Then for the gloves, you will take footman gloves. They come with divine trait. That can't be changed, so you will have to live with that. The boots you will also take from footman. There you have the problem that the trait is exploration and you can't change that, but you have to live with that and take it. And for the jewelry, you take 3 footman jewelry also to get the 5-piece bonus set, and enchant all the jewelry with blocking enchants to get the most of your blocking, obviously. For the weapons and the shield, both the weapon and the shield should be footman, should be Histbark, sorry, to get the 5-piece bonus for Histbark. So you will have a sword and a shield, or 2 swords and 2 shields with Histbark. If you're going in the champion system with the mace passive, then of course you use maces. But if you are like me and try to get the master or maelstrom weapon, then of course go with blade enchanted, blade expertise, like mentioned before. For the sword, you could or you should enchant it with the defending trait and use a hardening glyph on it. And for the shield, you can go reinforced also for both. Concerning the enchants, it depends how your money situation is. I have enchanted my helmet and my chest and my pants with the prismatic rune, so I get all 3 attributes as bonus with the enchantment. And for the other parts, I have enchanted it currently here with nothing, as you can see, because I just crafted it. And the other ones are also not enchanted because I just crafted all that gear and I have not enchanted everything yet. But the basic thing is to enchant it, even if you are going with the Magicka route with stamina. So everything you see that is not enchanted with anything, it's enchanted. It should be enchanted with stamina, except for the 3 major parts, which should of course be the prismatic one, if you can do it. If you can't craft it prismatic because you don't have the money or you don't want to spend the money for it, you have to decide if you need any of the remaining ones. You could, for example, enchant one with Magicka only and one with health only, or 2, and the other one you can decide, or go stamina also. It really depends what you're missing. Since I have all 3 enchanted with all 3, it's a bit better for me distributed, but again, you can decide on the 3 big pieces. Alright, that's it for the setup for if you are below 300 champion points. So let's have a look at the gear when you have 300 or more champion points. Why 300 or more? Because with 300 you will have 100 into blocking, and once you have that, I personally think that Footman gets obsolete, or you basically have such a high diminishing return that it doesn't make too much sense to use it anymore when you can use something that is benefiting you more. What is benefiting you more, you may ask? So the over 300 CP that I'm currently using is maybe not the best from a min-max standpoint. It's only because I'm a fashion victim and I like to look at my gear and like it. And I really hate the look of Bloodspawn, and I really even hate the look of Engine Guardian even more. So I'm currently, for my build over 300 CP, I'm not using any of the Undaunted sets, be it Bloodspawn or Engine Guardian, because they look ugly. So instead I'm using a Spectre's Eye, which gives me also physical resistance, and it's also pretty nice. So I have a 3-stat bonus with it to get Magicka and physical resistance. So I have the belt and the gloves and the shoulders with the Spectre's Eye. If you're not into fashion like me, then you can of course choose Engine Guardian helmet and shoulders and Bloodspawn, like with the below 300 CP version, and then get just rid of the Spectre's Eye and use the Hisspark here for the armor. So you can get rid of the Hisspark shield, and in my case Hisspark hammer, and put it into the armor slot. So you have the Hisspark always available with 5 pieces, and that should be pretty nice, I guess, too. Why don't I use that? Again, like I'm a fashion victim, but I'm still hoping to get that, as a side note, I'm still hoping to get one of the special costumes from the Imperial City. So I really would like to get the Sifkin Dreadguard, so I look like I look now. And then I could use the Engine Guardian that I would use. I would go with Engine Guardian. Then I could use Engine Guardian and still look the same like I look now. But since that's not the case, I'm gimping a little bit myself currently, but yeah, it's still fine. So if you're not going my route, then I'll show you what you can take. So like I said before, you can go Bloodspawn or Engine Guardian. Now, as you can see, I already have close to 28 and 27 physical resistance now. Let me just buff up my hardened armor. And you will see that I'm at the hard cap already. That's because my gear is enchanted with reinforced, except for the little parts. So I have reinforced here, reinforced here, and reinforced here, reinforced here. So I have only 2 divines, it's basically the ones with the least armor value, which I have medium here and light here. Those are divines. So if you're going for reinforced like I do, then you can switch out those Spectre's Eye parts and put in the his spark ones, except for the helmet and shoulders where you go Engine Guardian. And when you go Engine Guardian, you have everything on reinforced. Then you can still manage with the physical resistance. You will lose the like 2000 physical resistance, but again, it still puts you at like 30, a little bit over 30k, and 31 around that, and that's also still enough if you're going with Engine Guardian. But if you go Engine Guardian, do it with reinforced. Now, if you're going for Bloodspawn, you know, Bloodspawn has that 6% chance or whatever it is to give you even more physical resistance and spell resistance. That proc or that bonus procs, from my point of view, pretty often during a fight, especially if you're getting attacked by multiple thrash mobs. So as it pops or as it procs that often, I would suggest to maybe enchant your gear infused instead of reinforced, because if you're going reinforced, you already have like 27k. So and if you're buffed, you are at 30. You are at the hard cap already. So when that proc the Bloodspawn procs, you are basically way over the hard cap, and for PvE it's pretty much useless. So why not save on some armor here and not go reinforced and go infused? So the enchantment that you put in is way higher and your attributes are higher that way. And it's basically a win-win situation. You will still be way over the hard cap when it procs, no question about it. But when you are already over the hard cap, then why not put into infused? That's my thinking. So again, the enchantment stays the same, like for the lower than 300 champion points thing. So the 3 major parts, if you can, enchant them prismatic, and the rest enchant them with stamina. For the jewelry, there is a change. The jewelry, if you're over 300 champion points, and of course if you're VR16, or you can get them even if you're not veteran rank 16, if you're lucky in the dungeon runs. You take 2 willpower rings. I personally have chosen the robust trait to get more stamina for tanking. And of course the enchantment stays with shield plate enchantment. Necklace, I'm using a Necklace of Agility. This one I'm using with health, but as you can see, my health is pretty high, so you could also go for a agility one and have it with an arcane trait or robust trait. I know the robust trait is pretty expensive, so if you don't want to spend that kind of cash, then you can of course go with arcane to get more magicka if your health is high enough. So my basic rule is 30k for tanking and no less. So if you're at that level, then you can decide what you want to do, basically. I just bought that first, and yeah, I don't want to look for another one, so that's why. So currently we have more magicka with that set bonus, the 2 set bonus, and we have also 2 set bonus for the agility, which I'm using here. I'm using a Sword of Agility and I'm using a Shield of Agility to get the 2-piece bonus. Shield I have also reinforced, like before, and the Sword of Agility I just didn't want to put another enchantment on it, so I've left the enchantment that I bought it with, which is also pretty good. It gives magic damage and restores stamina. So if you don't want to enchant it with Hardening to get the damage shield, then this one is also pretty good. But you could also enchant it with, or you could also leave it with the Hardening enchantment. If you are more on the Magicka side for tanking, or if you want to have more Magicka, if you feel you need more Magicka, you could also use the enchantment that absorbs magic damage and gives you Magicka. It's really up to you. I'm more into the stamina part of things when I'm tanking. Same goes for either way of the Undaunted sets that you use, so it doesn't really matter what Undaunted set you use for the jewelry or the weapon sets. So that stays the same. What you could also do is, if you're going with that Undaunted part, you basically have one spot free on your either weapon or shield slot for a set piece. So what you could do is, if you're going, for example, with a shield of agility to get the bonus, or 2 shields of agility to get the bonus on both bars, you could either use here, that's what I plan to use, so if you have it, then kudos to you. You could use either the Master Sword from Dragonstar Arena, or the Maelstrom Sword from the Maelstrom Arena, or if you're going into a dungeon with lots of undead and dead, you could also use a VR16 version of the weapon that you get from the Fighters Guild, from the last quest of the Fighters Guild, the Prismatic Sword. Which, if you're doing it at VR16, you get a VR16 version of that weapon, which is pretty good. It's basically a free prismatic enchantment, so that you don't have to spend like 40 or 50k for a stone to enchant it. And it gives you more damage to undead, if you want to go that way, of course. As you can see, I don't have that, so I'm still staying with the set that I currently have. So yeah, that's also an option that you could do. What is also an option is to get the sword, or to use the sword that you get from Imperial Prison Veteran or Imperial Prison from the last boss, the Lord Warden Dusk. It's basically I don't know if I have it here with me. No, I don't have it. It's basically a one-handed sword with the new Imperial Daedric style that has, I think, also this trait on it, defending and hardening, as far as I know. So that's also a good alternative if you only need one weapon and you don't have Master or Maelstrom or Prismatic or whatever. You could use Grievous, the Grievous, whatever it's called, the sword from that one. There is also another possibility, which I don't really suggest. If you're low on health, which you shouldn't be, you should place your health enchantment here. But if you're really low on health, so if you're like 28k or 25k when everything is done with food, you could, in worst case, replace the agility parts with endurance. So you could use an endurance necklace and an endurance shield, or the also a drop from the last boss from Lord Warden Dusk is a shield that you get. I think it's the quest reward, I'm not sure, but you get also a shield. It's called, I think, Grievous Horde, which also counts to the bonus of the endurance set, and I think it's reinforced already, so yeah, it's also not that bad if you want to use it. And it's I think it's a unique Daedric style also for a shield, so yeah, that's also a possibility if you want to think of it. Okay, I think that's everything for the tanking part, if you have over 300 champion points. So let's have a look at the DPS, gear and skills and whatnot. Like I mentioned before, the DPS gear is only for the veteran or normal version of White Gold Tower, and only for the Planar Inhibitor boss, so the Flame Atronach boss, where basically everyone has to be in DPS mode except for the healer, or healer also, whatever. but the tank has to be in DPS gear to do anything and close the portals and whatnot. Like I said before, there are two versions. One version is if you're going stamina, and the other version is if you go Magicka. Of course, if you go stamina, then you should have the champion points right for stamina. If you go Magicka, same part for the Magicka champion points distribution. Like mentioned, I'm going Magicka, so I don't really have all my old parts in my inventory from my stamina days as a DPS. But I can also tell you what parts I'm using, and like mentioned before, I can try to maybe put up either in the description or in an extra part of the video at the end what, like, icons or whatever from the skill sets, but most likely it's in the description. So if you want to see everything, again, look in the description of the video where I put in the gear for DPS. So for stamina DPS, I would suggest for gear, armor wise, a Moloch Kina helmet, light, or shoulders. It really depends which one you have. If you have both, I would suggest the helmet in light, and 5 parts of the Vicious Ophidian set. I think I have it here, at least one part. Yeah. So the Vicious Ophidian set gives you a stamina reduction with 3 items, and the 5-piece bonus is weapon damage, and it restores stamina, which doesn't really matter much when you're doing the plain inhibitor boss, except if you get adds from the portals, then you maybe get the proc from the stamina restore. But other than that, the reduced cost of stamina and the weapon damage is why you take that set. And for the necklace, for the boots, sorry, I would use Jay of Kingslayer, and for the necklace also Jay of Kingslayer to get the Jay of Kingslayer 2-piece bonus, which is also weapon damage. If you don't have the boots, you can of course exchange the chest from the Vicious Ophidian with the Jay of Kingslayer chest, or any other armor that is available from Jay of Kingslayer with Vicious Ophidian, whatever you have. The basic thing is that you have the light helm and one heavy piece, and the rest in medium with the Vicious Ophidian to get the full Undaunted set bonus. And for the jewelry, you will take 2 rings of agility and 1 agility bow to get the agility bonus, set bonus, so the stamina and the weapon damage. There is also an alternative to that if you don't have the Vicious Ophidian. So if you haven't done Sanctum Ophidia, the easiest way to get a DPS gear set with stamina, I would suggest to you to craft Hunting's Rage set, 5-piece set, in combination with 3 Ashen Grip. So that would be 5 armor Hunting's Rage, 2 armor Ashen Grip, and 1 Ashen Grip bow to get the 3-piece Ashen Grip bonus with the weapon damage. And then you have to switch up the jewelry and get 3 agility jewelry, so 1 necklace and 2 rings. That's the alternative for stamina DPS. For skills, if you're going stamina, as you've seen before, I'm using a bow as weapon. So if you're going that route, I would suggest to level up bow and use the morph from Poison Arrow, the Poison Injection, as well as a Snipe morph. I think the best would be, yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's just that you do damage. So you can take Lethal Arrow or Focused Aim. I think Lethal Arrow is a little bit better from my point of view. And So the skills, I would only use bar 1 because that's all you need if you're going bow, if you're doing that. So on bar 1 I would use the Morph of Snipe, whichever you choose. Then I would use Evil Hunter as the second slot. At the third slot I would use Poison Injection, but I would only use that when the plane inhibitor boss is below 50%. And on fourth you can stay with Coagulating Blood. It's your oh shit healing. Basically when you're getting too close, either when you're getting too much from the flame damage, or if the boss comes too close when he's blue, or when it's blue. And the fifth one, I would take Inferno. I don't even morph it, because basically you morph it if you're using the stamina route. You morph it into Flames of Oblivion to get the weapon critical. But as I'm stamina, I don't morph it because Inferno is enough for me. But if you're going with stamina, you use the Flames of Oblivion to get the weapon critical striking. And for the ultimate, you could, or you should use the other morph. So you should use Flawless Dawnbreaker to get the weapon damage buff also when you have slotted it. And I think that's it for the DPS stamina part. So let's move to let's jump to the Magicka DPS gear. My group is pretty strong when we're doing the Planet Inhibitor boss, so I'm not using the set that I suggest here now. I'm currently using, I can show you, I'm currently using this set here. So I'm using the Molokina Mask for the spell damage bonus, and then I'm using 4 pieces of the Overwhelming set, and then I'm using Warm Cult pants and gloves just for the little bit of spell damage that I get. So it's, as I said before, my group is so good, so I'm not really spending too much money in creating my gear for DPS for Magicka. For jewelry, I'm using a 3-piece willpower. The Mara Blessing one you can get from, if you finish the quest line from White Gold Tower, it counts as a willpower set, so it's pretty easy to get. The rest, of course, you can buy. I'm still using my normal ones with the shield enchantment. Like I said before, I don't really care in buying 2 more separate ones and enchant them with spell damage. Of course, you can, or you should do it if you want to maximize everything. Then yes, buy a second part of the, buy a second pair of rings for willpower, and of course enchant them with spell power to get more damage. So, yeah. And then I'm using also a Master Inferno Staff. In this case I'm using a Real 13 version. Yeah, as I said before, for me it's enough that I kill the portals in like 1 shot. If I can do that, then everything is fine. And then I have low rank Sword of Torok's Pact on my back bar. For the Magicka side of things, I'm using 2 bars. But I get to that a little bit later. I'm gonna tell you now what I would suggest to use as gear if you really want to deal a lot of damage. So DPS gear for Magicka based, I would suggest 5 armor pieces of Giuliano's set, so it's craftable, easy to do, and then again I would, it really depends what staff you have. If you have a master Inferno staff or any master staff from Dragonstar Arena, then the armor gear is a bit different. If you don't have it like I have, or if you don't have the highest version, but for example, if you don't have it, then I would suggest to have 2 Taurox packed, also craftable, one armor part and the other one as staff. And if you don't have a Master Inferno staff, or if you don't have a prismatic staff like from the Fighters Guild, which does damage to Undead and Daedra, then you could also go with so if you have that one, you can go for only 1 Taurox and keep it that way. So it really depends what you want to do. So if you don't have a Master Staff, then you have to go Taurox. If you have a Master Staff, then you can, for example, go with a 2-piece of Molakina and also get the Molakina buff. Or Narayaneth is also a possibility. For the other ones, the swords for dual wield are also Taurox packed, so as soon as you switch, you still have the Taurox packed set bonus anyways. So even if you don't use Taurox pack because you have a Master Staff or whatnot, then you still have the Taurox pack bonus as soon as you switch. For the jewelry stays the same, so the jewelry stays with the 3 willpower set, and that's basically it for the gear. So it's pretty simple. Basically any DPS will do as long as you can kill the portals in one shot. That's the main reason to get the DPS gear, to close the portals in one shot, and preferable from range, to have less mobility and more targets. So for the skills, let's have a look at the skills. On bar 1, I'm using Crushing Shock. You could also use Force Pools if you want. Depends what you have leveled up or morphed. Second one, I'm using Evil Hunter again, because the bosses are undead, or a Daedra. Then I'm using Elemental Drain. It's good for me to regen Magicka, because my Magicka regeneration is pretty low. Excuse me. And I don't really have the Magicka pool that a real Magicka DPS has, so any Magicka that I get back is good. If someone else is using Elemental Drain and you have a master staff, you could of course go also on that slot with Destructive to get even more bonus from the master staff. I wouldn't overuse it though, because it uses way more Magicka than Crushing Shock, so I would only use it at dot and not as spammable. Then I'm using a Rupture. For that to be really effective, you need to have a good coordinated group where the people don't run around like headless chicken and stay at one spot, so you can plant it. Except for when the boss goes blue, of course, then you have to cut it, and then you probably won't use it. I also use it when the boss goes down and you can DPS him. That's also a good way to use it. Then I'm using Inferno, like I said before. For the Magicka thing, I don't really have to morph it, because the one morph is critical weapon or weapon crit bonus, which I don't really need, and the other one is that if I kill a mob with the fireball, then I get Magicka back. I don't really kill anything with the fireball normally in that fight, so I'll stay with just Inferno, and it saves me 1 point also. As ultimate, you can change it up a little bit. I normally stay with Dawnbreaker of Smiting, so remember, if you go Magicka, use the Smiting morph and not the Flawless Dawnbreaker one, because the Smiting is a little bit better damage-wise. And it also deals magic damage. The other one does too, but the damage is a bit higher. If you don't want to use that, which I don't know why you would do it, you could also change it for the Mage Guild one with Shooting Star, if you really want to. And let's go to the second bar. Second bar is basically my buff healing and a close range bar. So I have Burning Embers here, I have Igneous Shield, I have Engulfing Flames, I have Coagulating Blood, and Inferno again to not lose the buff. And on my second ultimate slot I have Standard of Might, so if I have enough ultimate stored when the boss goes in his regeneration or down phase, I just pop in the Standard of Might to get more damage. So yeah, pretty long video, I know, but like I said at the start of the video, it's basically a complete new setup partially that I'm using. And again, as you can see, if you remember my my initial Blockade build, then you will maybe remember that my Magicka was way below 10k. It was like around, I don't know, 9.5k, and look at it now. So my health is pretty much the same. My stamina is a little bit less, I think. I think I had 24 or 25 before, but it doesn't really matter, trust me. But the Magicka is really good now. I have like 20k Magicka, I have close to 34k and a half health, and my stamina is close to 24k. So I considered it very well balanced with this setup. Again, it really helps that I'm close to the champion point cap, so I get a little bit more bonus on the attributes too. But still, even if you are just starting out with the build, but you have at least some champion points, you will see that it's a bit of difference, yes, but you're maybe at 17 here and 32 here or whatnot and 21 here, but it's not really something that really makes you bad as a tank, so it's still very viable. Okay, so if I missed anything, then watch at the end of the video. Maybe put in a little video here if I missed something, but other than that, thank you for watching, and if you liked that video and if you like my build, maybe give a little thumbs up and like my video on YouTube, or if you don't like it, or if you like it, please also post comments, and if you have maybe a better build, or if you have a build that you're using and you think that's better or that's even also good, then just also leave a comment and maybe I'll try it out and check it out myself. So again, thanks for watching and see you at the next video. Bye bye.